Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution.
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 You want a revolution?
You say you want a revolution?
Revolution. The revolution.
It's going on right now.
Welcome to The Revolution, the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we ask today's most successful entrepreneurs to share the tools and strategies they use to build relationships and connections to grow their revenue. Now, your host for The Revolution, John Corcoran.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. And, every week I talk to smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs, all kinds of companies. Check out our archives because we've got recent interviews with founders of Netflix and Kinko's and EO, Activation Blizzard, Lending Tree, Open Table, lots of great episodes for you to check out. I'm also the co-founder of Rise 25, where I help connect B2B business owners to their ideal prospects. And my guest this week, first of all, I want to give a quick shout out to David Anderson of Off Madison Ave, offmadisonave.com. He introduced me to today's guest. He's a very talented fellow. Go check him out. But the guest today is Robert Clinkenbeard. He founded and sold his $20 million business in 15 years after immigrating over from Scotland. He's a respected EO leader and mentor, published 2 books, including the Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. And this has helped him to become a sought-after speaker at many global events. He's also a disciplined athlete, competed in 4 different Ironman triathlons, and played semi-professional rugby, which allows him to use this experience to now help high-performing business owners and athletes to get to an elite level. At his peak, his business had about 350 employees in 5 different branches. So we're going to talk about the journey to get there. And of course, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses to get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you content and done-for-you podcasts. Go check out rise25media.com or email us support@rise25media.com to learn more about that. All right, Robert, a pleasure to have you here today. And you just decided one day around 1999, just for the turn of the century, hey, I need a fresh start. You're going through a divorce. You decide I'm going to move over from your native Scotland over to somewhere that bears zero resemblance whatsoever to Scotland, to the southwestern United States, to Arizona of all places, and start a business, which to me, frankly, sounds crazy, but it seems to have worked out okay. But what's going through your head as you decide to just completely start fresh and start over?
Yeah, I mean, I was, thank you, first of all, for being on, John. It was definitely a pretty challenging time. I, lived in Scotland. It's a beautiful place normally, but I just went through a fairly nasty divorce. There wasn't a great deal of opportunities in Scotland. Scotland's, again, a beautiful place, but it's not really entrepreneurial. And after being encouraged to go to a trip to Scottsdale, Arizona, I mean, I had such a blast there. I was, mountain biking. This was in December. Mountain biking up north. I was skydiving. I went skiing within the state up in Flagstaff. And I thought, wow, this is unbelievable. All these different things to do within this fairly small state. And then I started to look a little bit closer. And I noticed all these beautiful houses. There's people driving all these fancy cars, Ferraris, whatever. And I said, well, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong here? And I started to really look at my life. I got back to Scotland. I'm looking out to my dreary window. It's raining, bouncing off the window. I said, how do I better my life here? How do I improve myself and just get to a better place? And I pretty much, from that moment, and it was probably in January of 99, I thought, you know what, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to sell my house. And that's what I did. Over the next 5 months, I went through the process of selling probably most of my goods, right? Most of my household furniture, my car, sold my house. And in May of 99, I, said goodbye to my friends. I had multiple going away parties, which was fun. But I arrived in Phoenix, Arizona, and I walked into the airport. It was probably 8, 9 o'clock at night. And first of all, I was looking for this, this $1 million check, and I was looking for the Welcome Robert sign. I was looking for a nice stay at the Ritz Hotel, and of course, that wasn't there. So here it was in Arizona, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to figure things out. So that started the long journey from there.
But at least it was warm, right? So you had a background, you'd studied horticulture previously, so you had some kind of background So was your idea that I'm going to start a landscaping business? Were you thinking that through at that point, or did that come later?
To be honest, I wasn't really thinking it through. I just felt I'm in a nicer place. I've heard there's a lot of opportunities there. I didn't really have my social security number. I didn't have any credit history there. So I just, started to look around, see what opportunities were out there. Obviously got all my paperwork, but the first probably 6 months I was working as a contractor, doing silly things like changing out fire sprinkler heads. And then I just thought, well, I need to start making friends here. So I started to go to different networking events. I started to go and socialize, meet some rugby people, and eventually got to connected to some people there. And they just said, "Hey, let's start working." I started working for a small landscape company, and then I got a job at a really large national company. And doing all my time, getting my experience there, obviously totally different climate. And eventually I was encouraged again to start going out to networking at night. So, I just started to really get networked and get to know people.
Yeah. And I've interviewed a number of people that are immigrants to another country and start a business in that new country, not knowing a lot of people, not maybe knowing the lay of the land. And sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes people just it's kind of like they don't know what they don't know. And so they just plow ahead. Other times their back's against the wall. There's nothing else they can do. So they just have to hustle. What was your experience like starting the business?
Yeah. I mean, it was, as you say, it was just putting that head down, that grind. I didn't really know what I was doing at first, but I knew I could work hard. I could probably outwork anybody at the time. So I just started to, again, make contacts. I was out there cutting the grass. I was out there trimming shrubs. And, you obviously know the temperature in Arizona. I was out at 4:30, 5 in the morning. So I'd
Got to
finish
beat the heat by starting early, right?
yeah, it was crazy. So I'd be finished by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd go back, I would shower up. And then at night, I would then go out and network. I'd go to different business groups, get to know people. And I think it was at one of those networking groups that, yeah, people start to then say, hey, you should contact this person, contact that person. And I think just started to get that reputation. And I started to get more and more business, started to hire some more people to help me. But I'd never run a business before. I had no clue about the financial part of it.
So let me ask you about that, because that's one of the biggest challenges I think people have is the idea of moving past beyond their skill set into areas where they need to become skilled. And eventually you have 350 employees in 5 offices. So we'll get there. But was there anyone that you leaned on? Did you have mentors? Did you have peers? Did you just figure it out yourself in these early days?
Probably one of my biggest memories was, it's probably back in 2007, 2008. We were doing a lot of big, large construction work. And, these were $500,000, $1 million jobs. And I had a team helping managing them, but I had no clue myself and if the jobs were performing well. So I brought in a fractional CFO, and he started to dig into the numbers. And he kept telling me, hey, I don't think you're making any money in this side of the business. And I somewhat blew him off a little bit. And eventually he kept getting louder and louder. And eventually I listened to him. I looked at the numbers, dug into them more, and sure enough, yeah, I was losing a ton of money. And I think it was in early 2008, I started to stop bidding on large construction hard bid jobs.
And what other areas to the business were there at that point? Was it residential?
We had the maintenance, that recurring maintenance. We had spray, so we had all that nice recurring revenue. But we all know 2008 what happened then.
Right.
If I had not listened to him and had that outside help, then we could have easily not been in business these days. So I mean, that's one of the things I talk about in my book is use that help around you and just trying to lean on their experience.
Yeah. What were some of the other big challenges along the way and on the journey to, 8 figures, 20 million in revenue, 350 employees?
I would say the other big challenges were finding the right people. I joined EO back in, probably 13, 14 years ago. And I quickly listened to a lot of speakers and my forum mates, my chapter events, and a lot of them kept talking about, hey, hire people that are better than you. So I knew I was growing rapidly, and I had all the clients on a first name basis, but it was definitely getting out of my control. So I started to hire some really good people. And through bringing on those people, coaching and mentoring them over a period of 2 or 3 years, they eventually became, almost part of my senior leadership team. They became my branch managers. So I think I had that foresight and say, hey, I need to start hiring some really good people to help me manage the business. And yeah, through that coaching and development, and giving them some direction, giving them some KPIs, that's really what helped me take the company to the next level.
Yeah. And then in terms of managing that and improving your personal skills, what sorts of areas did you turn to? You mentioned EO. Did you have coaches during this time period? How did you up-level your own personal skills?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge learner. I mean, I feel as though I'm sharpening the saw every single day. So yeah, I had some mentors. I had the mentorship program through EO. I also did a lot of the EO courses, like the EMP, Birthday of Giants course. Uh, so any type of learning I could get my hands on, I was engrossing myself and really getting involved in it. And I did make the mistake of bringing a lot of that information back to my company, and I almost like felt as I was dumping too much on them. So I
That's a
did
great
learn to
question to ask. Like, yeah, you go off, you hear this actually, the founder goes off, gets excited, gets an idea, comes back, dumps all these different ideas on the existing team, and they immediately freak out, right? And it's worse if it happens successively. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, you have to be selective, but I think where you get probably the best results I've seen is actually bring your leadership team along to some of those events, especially if you know it's a really good speaker or maybe it's a challenge area. But if you bring your leadership team along to the event and actually they can listen to it, and then you meet afterwards and decide as a team, hey, this is something I think would be really good for a company, and then you do a roll-up plan. But yeah, if you're coming back every single week with something new, it's not going to go down well.
Right, right. This Ironman mindset, you've made that your mantra here. When did you start to get into Ironmans, and then let's get into what you mean by that, the mindset piece.
So even taking a slightly step back, I mean, probably back in 2007, I'd been playing rugby up until that point, and my body was beginning to break down a little bit, all these hits over the years. So I started then to run just to keep the fitness going. And then eventually I met this group locally in Scottsdale where it was a triathlon group, and they persuaded me to do this small sprint triathlon. And yeah, I'm a terrible swimmer. I could literally swim 1 mile to the pool, and then I was dying at the end. So, I through perseverance and determination, that's what I'm all about. I eventually got up to increase my distance, Olympic, half Ironman, and eventually did my first Ironman race in 2001 and 2009 in Arizona. And yeah, I never thought that was possible. I really, I was definitely freaked out by the water, swimming with 2,500 other swimmers. So
what was it? Was it in the ocean? Was it in a lake? Like me?
it was in Tempe Lake.
Tempe Lake. Okay.
But it's like swimming in a washing machine. You're getting punched, you're getting kicked. I mean, goggles flying off. It's pretty brutal.
Wow.
So, I think after I can't remember if it was after my third or fourth race, and I'd always had a goal of writing a book. My dad's written a bunch of them, and it was on my bucket list. And I thought, well, how can I explain the story of, preparing for an Ironman race, doing the training plan, having that vision of crossing the finish line, and transfer that into my business. And we all know EOS, we all know scaling up. It talks about what's that roadmap look like, where you're going in 10, 15 years, what are some of the things you need to be doing between now and then. So I talk about the parallels between my training for an Ironman race versus that roadmap in business. So yeah, that sort of now, hung my hat on as Ironman mindset, because again, going through the Ironman training, we all come up against challenges. We get injured, we get mechanical issues in the bike, we get dehydrated. We struggle through that, not putting in enough calories in the body. But it's the same with business. Every single day we're having some type of challenge that we have to overcome, whether it be employee issues, whether it be lack of cash, whether it be client complaints. And, unless you have that mindset on, what's keeping you going, what's that motivating factor and where you are going, whether it be around family, whether it be a nice exit, you have to have something just to help you push through those day-to-day challenges.
And is that thing, what is that thing? Is it anything for anyone, or is it is it a coach who's yelling at you, or one of those things?
Coaches are definitely motivating you, but what I do with my clients is a lot of them have never really thought about what that exit looks like, or what does that bucket list look like, or where are people going in 10, 15 years. So by asking those types of questions and keep asking them why, it allows them to, again, paint that picture of where they're going. So I find that really successful.
And so let's talk about the sale of your business. How did that come about? Were you burn out and decided you wanted to be done with it, or was it just take chips off the table, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I mentioned this earlier. I went to the EMP Birthday of Giants program in MIT. And I was listening to, actually, it was Vern Harnish that was talking, and again, talking about life's too short, where are you going? And that light bulb moment came on because I was definitely unhappy in my business. I was starting to have some partnership challenges. Him and I were on different pages. We'd got along for many years. But it just, I was going home every single night complaining to my wife and kids. And, that's not fair in them. So literally within, go ahead.
Well, to I'm sure others listening to this might think, well, you build a business to 20 million, 350 employees, 5 offices. It seems like you've moved to the United States. You have a family. It seems like you've achieved the American dream in many ways. So, what do you say to those who are thinking like, geez, what could possibly be missing from that? And secondly, that must have been crazy on the psyche to think like, look at all these things I've gone, and yet I'm still not happy.
Yeah, it gets back to that point I made earlier about moving to the States, where I felt as though I had to keep leveling up, and I just felt as though I was in that comfort zone. And I think that's part of the reason why I got into my Ironman racing, was because the business was running well. And I had all these branch managers, everybody was performing, everybody had their KPIs, but I felt as though that wasn't enough. And I'd started to say, hey, let's expand. We had opportunities in Florida, we had opportunities in California. Let's expand. Let's become a national company. Let's take it to 50, 100 million. My partner had he was enjoying his country club membership. He loved that lifestyle. And it became apparent that the two of us were definitely going in different directions. So, and I think it was just my desire to keep on learning, keep on pushing myself. I'd gone through different challenges coming to the States, going through divorces. And so it didn't scare me to push myself outside my comfort zone. So, I turned around to him literally within 2 or 3 weeks of that EMP program. And I said, hey, I'm done. Either we can buy each other out, or we could hold things together enough and go towards an exit. And that's what we decided to do. I think by chance, literally within a few days, our business broker called us on a random call, and we started talking to him. And within 3 months, we had our book ready to go to market. And by May of 2016, we'd sold the business after probably entertaining 15, 16 offers.
Wow. So you got a lot of offers, but that also tells me that something wasn't right with those other offers. So how did you decide who to sell to?
A lot of it was the structure of the deal. How much cash up front, what type of obligations, ultimately, yeah, putting the money aside, which is obviously pretty important.
Right.
But we wanted the rest of our employees to be able to grow. We built such a great relationship. I mean, there's days where, yes, you were consumed by some of the daily stuff that went on, but we were really good to our employees. We would have company events all the time. We had carne asadas. We would have Halloween parties. And one particular time, we actually rented a carnival and brought it into the
Whole
yard.
carnival.
Whole carnival.
Wow.
So brought all of our employees in. We brought their families in. So there was 500-600 people there.
So that was important to you, is preserving that
really
culture.
Important. Culture, looking after employees. So who's the best company that we could partner up with that would take those employees to live their dreams,
Right.
new opportunities.
So, and after did you have an idea what you were going to do after you sold the business, or did you figure out what you're going to do after it was sold?
I didn't have a clear picture when I left. In fact, when I did eventually leave properly after a couple of years after selling it, I mean, I definitely struggled for a good 6 to 9 months, and I ended up hiring a life coach just to, again, paint my picture. Where did I want to go? And after working with that life coach, I realized that what can I do to give back to the business community? What can I do to level up other people's lives or help them make less mistakes than I did? I had a bunch of mistakes growing my company. So that's why I moved into doing coaching. So I now do coaching with CEOs and companies across the US and Canada. And I love doing it because, again, I see all the challenges that companies are going through right now with employees, increasing
and
costs.
as we record this in November 2021, I imagine that's a big one. Labor pool, hiring, retaining, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and all the material shortages and material increases. Yeah. So it's pretty brutal out there.
Yeah, yeah. What are you excited about now?
Excited to continue helping people. Excited about, I'm now getting opportunities to help business owners go to some type of an exit strategy. And a lot of them immediately think that that's like a true sale. But I'm saying, well, here's 2 or 3 options. And one of the ones that's really becoming attractive to people is that how can we get the business running really smoothly so you can go off and enjoy what you're passionate about, whether it be your family or the business adventures, and let somebody else run the business. And you just, always enjoy the money that spins off from that. So really excited to, look at that avenue a little bit more, to see owners come to me and they just look beat up, they look exhausted, they look stressed because of what's going on right now, and be able to help them and give them a solution. I mean, that really excites me right now.
Right. And it's got to be an interesting perspective, having come to the United States with hardly anything, started over from scratch, started a business in a country that you hadn't lived in before, didn't know the culture, in a landscape that was completely different from lush Scotland. And then, done Ironmans and things like that. I mean, part of me feels like I imagine, that your conversations with clients have got to be like, come on, pick yourself off at the mat. How can you be so upset about, so you lost a key employee? Okay, come on. It's not that bad.
Yeah. And because I had that happen to me, I could share that experience and talk them off the ledge and say, hey, I give them examples of what I've done without, not to boast or anything, but just say, hey, if we figure out this roadmap together, I'm going to help coach you there. I'm going to talk you through all the pitfalls and make less mistakes. And yeah, once I build that trust with them and we increase that confidence, then it works. It works tremendously.
I want to wrap things up, but before I do, I want to ask my gratitude question. So I'm a big fan of gratitude. And if you look around at your peers and contemporaries, however you want to define that, and it could be from your landscaping days, it could be from EO, it could be forum mates, it could be from the EOS and scaling up work that you do now. Who do you respect? Who do you admire that's doing good work? I know you're close with David Anderson. I imagine Vern and Gino and people like that have had a big influence on your work. But who would you want to point out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there, but I would say Dave Anderson had a big influence on me. But I think Vern Harnish, in terms of his inspiration, his messaging, I always remember that presentation at the EMP program. I would say probably he's one of the biggest influences on me throughout my career. And even just that, him being part of EO and that EO tribe, they've given me so much. And I just feel that gratitude. And I really just want to give back to that community. Yeah,
that's great. Robert, this has been great. Where can people go to learn more about you, check you out, check out your books, podcasts, all that kind of stuff? Yeah, there's certainly LinkedIn, Robert Clinkenbeard on LinkedIn. There's my website, the radixgroupllc.com. I'm really big on Facebook, social media, Instagram. But I have my podcast as well, the Commercial Landscaper podcast. But I bring on tremendous guests, not just in the green industry, but from all over the world, and just business leaders that can share their stories and inspire others. Excellent. All right, Robert, thanks so much. Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast with John Corcoran. Find out more at smartbusinessrevolution.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list and join the revolution.
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 And be listening for the next episode of the Smart Business Revolution podcast.